What's going on, gamers? We got an interesting topic here to cover, and it's coming from Mike Ybarra. And I agree with what he's saying because he has an end conclusion that actually makes sense. So get ready for this because this is going to make a lot of sense. Colin Moriarty said this before too, but what Mike Ybarra is saying is actually critical because he's giving you a percentage of what digital used to be when they realized that it was something that was very important back then when he was with Microsoft. As you know, he's been with Xbox multiple times and he left multiple times. So let's get into this. Are we ready? Become a member for $3. Leave a tip down below. Would appreciate that. Like, comment, subscribe. Here we go. All right. So first of all, he says 82% of games purchased are digital. Wow, that's very high. And Mike Ybarra is basically talking about the PlayStation digital world. As we know, 82% of PlayStation digital, when you think about the actual number of players compared to 90% Xbox digital, is completely different because we would have to see how many active that is compared to how many active, whereas percentage games could be different. Let's say you had 10,000 people online. I said, 50% of you are digital. And you're like, okay. But I said this had 2 million and 50% are digital. How much bigger is that 50%? You see what I'm saying? That's million plus more. They don't even have 100. You see what I'm saying? They would even have nowhere near even close to that. That's why I say that when it comes to digital percentages, I think what gamers would want is what is the digital percentage of copies sold and actual gamers doing this. We know there's DLCs, microtransactions and all that. And you do have to include that in because that is the reason why the digital realm is a lot higher. And not only that, but it adds another factor to supporting gaming, which gives you a lot more games and all that, even though I hate the microtransaction world. But I'm saying this is what I want to kind of cover right now, along with the other things we're about to get into. And I think a lot of gamers would be happy if the companies came out and said, okay, look, this is the digital copy sold versus the physical copy sold. We're still going to give you that and tell you that that is the total amalgamation of everything. Just like if somebody was telling you, this is how much money my company made. And then they said, okay, but what about all these other sectors? I would like to see the individual stats. That stuff matters. Not, oh, I got 5 million players on this game, Microsoft, but I'm not going to tell you how many copies is sold. Yeah, let me see those copies. I can understand how people feel that way when they're thinking about these digital percentages because they're basically saying, I would like to see the ratio of digital games sold versus physical games sold. Fair point. But even then, this is still very high because to the corporation, it's profit. F the BS in their mind, right? No, this is profit. You can sit there and say that all you want, but that percentage is what it is and what you supported with your wallet. Going down, he says, I recall when I was in the business, when he was at Xbox, we passed by 50%. Remember that time where it was 50% digital ratio? We were saying, man, this is starting to get like concerning from a GameStop perspective. And for people that obviously didn't know this was coming. But the point was it was making GameStop like lose a lot of money. And a lot of other media outlets in the physical world were like, man, digital's taking over. We're going to have to adapt to this, which was a huge milestone. It was. So it has went up 32% since, which is a major increase because you're looking at the percentage of the market left over and developers, publishers, and companies are like, I'm making this much more selling stuff outside of digital copies versus physical copies because of digital with DLCs, microtransactions, expansions, battle passes, loot boxes, all that type of stuff. It adds into this is how much more money we can make compared to just, oh, you bought the physical copy. They're not going to go back to that. You said it though, and we know that. I did too, because I was right there with you. Not going to be a hypocrite. Now going down, it says, I wish physical media was here to stay. So Mike Ybarra isn't the one saying that he wants physical media to actually go away. He's not saying that. What he's saying is that he wishes it could do that, but the purchasing trend from consumers is clear. He's coming out telling you the same thing that Valve told you and all those other companies. You did this. Like I said, the purchasing trend from consumers is clear. Everybody, including me and everybody else that bought all those digitals, DLCs, all that, we brought it to that percentage, and that's what we told the companies. And because of that, that's what they're choosing to mainly focus on, and they're gonna abandon physical media, and everybody's making more money. You're just not gonna get your extra options. The consumers kind of screwed themselves with the company by putting them in that position. They're turning around saying, so because you did this, this is what I'm doing. You see, if you didn't feed them, and they're not going to be able to do that. That's why I said that you have to take responsibility for your side too. So just saying, this is the best way to think about it. So he says, I really hope we see, and this is what I like what he's saying. That's at the end of it. I really hope we see a digital promise of trust, because we've decided to do this. I think the most intelligent thing to fight for is digital trust, which means transparency and clarity soon, and digital ownership across all media. Guys, 100% correct. So Mike Ybarra is not coming here to beat down you fighting for physical media. Neither was I. I actually joined in the fight with you. You saw AGM made a lot of PlayStation videos, and I'm still making stuff on it. And I'm still saying I'm seeing from your perspective and having empathy about it. And I'm not being narcissistic about it. But I'm kind of now in the field, just going to let you guys know with what Mike Ybarra is saying and other companies. And even now more with what Colin is saying, that the only thing that you could do now, because Sony's not going to reverse, and they let you know this, is to fight for digital trust. You need that transparency and that clarity from them. Since everybody's now moving into this, that's what they want to hear about. So get them to actually focus on giving you better digital transparency and ownership. If you can fight for that, right? The license is going to be a fight. But I think if there's a fight that everybody should be jumping to, it's that. Saying, hey, when I go offline, when I do this and that, I still want this access. Don't take this down. If you're never going to give me anything past the license, let me have as much close as what I could feel from an owner with my license as much as possible. And in the Xbox world, it's the worst, because we saw what happened. You were even getting hit with your physical disc when Xbox servers went offline. Remember that? You couldn't even access your library. And it was a problem that was outside the Xbox medium over in the Microsoft Corporation. In the PlayStation world, it's not like that. So by default, the diskless future is more scary to gamers in the Xbox world, because even if you had physical medium, and you're talking, and I did that video that Xbox may have a physical drive, but not included. Obviously, it's an extended drive. If you're dealing with the same thing that those gamers were dealing with when the servers go offline, or you have to get online, then you don't really have physical then. They're just allowing you to believe that. It doesn't matter then. So what is the next thing to fight for? Like he's saying, digital promise of trust, transparency, and clarity across all media. You don't have a choice. This is where the game is at now. This is where the most money is being made. And we know how capitalist society works, and just companies and corporations in general. It's all about that profit. It's all about that net plus, all about the fiscal results every quarter. So that's why I had to make this video, because I kind of feel like what he's saying is actually where we do need to move towards to. Going down, I'm not saying you should give up fighting for your physical media. If you feel like you are putting a lot of pressure on PlayStation, if you feel like that it's actually working, keep going. I'm not trying to beat that down. I'm just saying that I just don't think Sony's going to change their mind. And they came out and kind of let you know that by telling the investors that when we saw that clip. Does It Play says, take out digital only games and you still have your 50%. The only noteworthy trend we see is the industry misrepresenting numbers to push an agenda. So what he's saying is, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you are realizing this, but like I said, that's part of the digital realm. Digital does not only mean buying a game. It means anything in the digital currency market. That's what he's not understanding. Physical means something you're going to buy in the physical. So that just makes people focus on the disc. But digital is much more complicated than that. And it makes more money in different facets than that, without the need of you moving at all. And just having up a store in front of you 24/7 and way more options. We're not seeing digital as only negative. I love digital for that. I don't like clutter. It's going to let you know that I don't. And like I said, if I went inside Walmart, Target, Best Buy, you see what I mean? And GameStop, right? Which actually would obviously have more options because they have used stuff and all that. But let's say you go to all those other companies. How many physical games do you think are going to be in front of you compared to the digital market? The digital market gives you way more options and discounts and discoverability. You have so many games in a digital realm because you're not limited by physical space, that you could have up 30, 40,000 games on a market. But if you go inside of a physical store, you probably only have like 20 or 30. And it's what they think is the most hottest that's actually going to sell. That's why I say that if you're trying to look for something outside of that medium, obviously you have to go to trade markets, custom markets, eBay, physical stores of GameStops, but multiple GameStops, because you're trying to say they don't have it here. Maybe I want to call them on the phone and check out all of these ones so I can try to find that physical copy. If it exists, right? You see what I mean? Digital makes that way better. So him saying taking out digital only games and you still have 50%, he's saying that he believes that they're not going to show you the digital games sold compared to the digital full percentage. I was talking about that at the beginning of the video, but you don't know the real number. But I obviously am telling you that it's easily 50+%. It's like, yeah, but we know that the other stuff is high too, though. Obviously, I mean, look how much money people have made off of microtransactions. You'd be surprised of what you would actually see as a result if that got removed. Not just from digital percentages for somebody like Sony, but just seeing the difference in skill and development. That's why I said Nintendo is amazing, because they were doing that mostly hardware and software for the longest, not microtransactions, and there's none in their games. And most people that have a Nintendo is for Nintendo exclusives. I'm telling you, them getting third-party support actually adds that to their world, but they deserve that because they've been doing legit sales and growing for 35, 40 plus years and not relying off of microtransactions. That's where they're amazing. Whereas if you look into the other worlds, it's mainly vampiring all day and get as much of other people's games and sitting in the back and just being a vampire and a pirate. Definitely Steam and PlayStation and Xbox. You know, like that's something you have to know. And then you got the daily reminder stuff when it comes to DVDs and all that. And Call It Out says, come on, Mike, they haven't said a word. They should have made announcements of digital promises with the announcement. This isn't looking good. Well, yeah, that's why I said that's what you have to fight for. Of course, they're not going to do that. But that's where I think people should be targeting if this does not end up working. Move to that next. This guy says, this is not a purchasing trend. You know, and I know, you know, the digital only releases outnumber physical releases. We are buying digital games because we aren't being given an effing choice. For the people that want that the physical medium and they're not given a choice, I can understand that. But that's not the case for me and a lot of other people. I'm buying digital because it's much more convenient. And I don't like clutter, and it takes up way too much space, and I got to worry about disk and all that. I can just bring it as much as I want. I love the cleanness of digital. But what I don't like is digital license. I feel like digital ownership should be there. Just saying. You should be able to say, hey, this is tied into this and that. I own this, so I can always go and re-download this if I want. And you can give me backwards compatibility support. And this guy says, F digital, if you can't sell it, then you don't own it. People are too lazy to get off their behinds and change the disc, that now they are giving up their ability to resell. Stupid. And also the 82% is BS. It includes the annual crap, ball and gun games. These are not the sales from the titles that matter to the fans. And this is going to be a fight that's always going to be there, as I've said before. No matter how you look at this, people are just going to keep focusing on that. If you notice, out of most comments, this seems to be the highest reply, like meaning that, okay, you want to show that percentage, but we're going to keep telling you once again, show me physical games versus digital game sales. All the other stuff, I'm like, but you can't say that doesn't matter, because the majority of the gaming industry needs that to get more content, to get their cosmetics, to get their battle passes, to buy their expansions and DLCs. And you know what I mean? Like, that stuff adds to the game. It's part of like that world now. Though I hate to over focus on microtransactions, and there should be more focus on supporting video games and good video games rather than cosmetics and all that. But I never minded optional cosmetics rather than meta interference. Meaning that if I get on a gacha game and they limit me to my daily playing, but if I want to get past it, I can still give you money. What? And some guy can sit there and give them $500 in one day and get his meta, but I have to wait. That to me is garbage. That's the stuff that I don't like, because that's psychological exploitation and getting people to gamble and turning games into Las Vegas with toxic, degenerate communities, because there's a bunch of losers that come around and coat their characters and do weird stuff like in the public. Like if you got your own private stuff, sure, but I hate it because it invites garbage into the gaming community. I'm just saying it does. Free to play allows just trash to walk in there and just be toxic. Whereas like if there were subscription pay models, everybody's on an even field and you're staying subscribed because the content is actually really good, like Netflix. That's why it's the biggest in the world. That other model is garbage. I can't stand it. So you're talking to somebody that has been talking about microtransactions for quite some time. Back then, I was doing that a while. And I'll say the same thing I say now. My point of view has not changed. That's why I always love Nintendo, because I was trying to tell people, look, when you see them selling 157 million Switches and their game selling 30, 40, 50 million, it's because they're that good. There's no microtransactions in there. People are actually buying a really good video game. It's not, keep on paying me after I give you mediocre gameplay that's a bundle imitation of the same stuff over and over again. The shooting is the same, the hacking is the same, the farming methods, it's so mindless. But then weekly, they're giving you nothing but extra microtransaction cosmetics and all this other stuff to buy. And it's literally soulless. Rather than somebody taking that microtransaction support for mediocre nonsense like that that's been on the market and some of that gotcha stuff and supporting real developers and real publishers who actually make really good video games. I actually like the way they're doing the new Gears of War, because they're not doing that. They're saying, hey, none of that BS in there. They're all about it. We're going back to the way that gaming really is. And that's what I actually like. That's what makes me actually want that game to actually succeed. But I'm a little bit worried about it because Microsoft's being slow and they're not putting that on PlayStation. But they want to put a single player game called Halo Campaign Evolved, or Campaign Devolved, with no multiplayer on there. I was like, you're not making any sense, because you said single player was supposed to be more of the Xbox focus and multiplayer, multi-platform like Sony is doing. But they talk in circles, so it's kind of annoying. But all in all, yeah, I get what you guys are saying. You want to see digital versus physical in its own section that does not include all that other stuff. Fair point. Are they going to give it to you? No. If anybody would, it would be Nintendo. But the problem is not over there. It's in the PlayStation world. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. Become a member. Leave a tip down below. Like, comment, subscribe. Only $3 for a member. It's very easy. Actually, I think you could do trials now, too. So go ahead and hit the free trial and just become one, just for the fun of it. Later, y'all. Keep on gaming.